Welcome to the 60th episode of Reanimated, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stuart Tiffin, and I'm being joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, H.A. Conrad in New York. How's it going?
Going well. How are you, Stuart?
Wunderbar, thank you. Perfectly delightful. So we are here for our 60th episode, which is kind of bananas, and we'll be doing our usual roundup of zombie news. And then we are doing a special double feature review of Zombie Diaries from 2006 and Diary of the Dead from 2007. Two films made with a similar technique, as it were, storytelling method. And so yeah, we'll be digging into those reviews in a little while. In the meantime, we need to thank our sponsor, Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own professional website. If you are in the market for building a website, we would highly recommend that you check them out. They've got all the tools to make it easy. You can start, I'm pretty sure, without even having to use a credit card. It's kind of their trial page is just straight up free, and you can have access to all their templates and take a look at making the website that you want to make. And then if you decide that you want to put some skin in the game, you can use our special code of zombie at checkout to get 10% off. So that's pretty badass.
Yep.
And
Thank you, Squarespace.
Dee. So in the zombie news, what do we got? We got a handful of stuff here today.
Mhm.
First up, Entertainment Weekly wrote an article about why zombies are so badass. And one of the points that they made in this article was that I enjoyed was that it's not just supernatural. They kind of fall into somehow a holy crap, this could actually happen category, which is why TV shows like The Walking Dead, The Strain, and Z Nation feel real, is what the article is saying, and I can definitely get behind that. It's because it feeds into so much of the
The pandemic idea, right?
that and our whole like dystopia, and we are such a fragile balancing act of a society, etc., etc. But it's a short little article, but it's quite good, and they also have a lot of gifts.
They do have a lot of gifts. They kind of go overboard with the gifts.
Yeah,
But the other point that they make is that just generally, and I think that this is definitely true generally of the zombie genre, is that just regular human beings, no matter what their vocation was before, are suddenly like superheroes, you know? So like the the Best Buy checkout guy or the manager, as it were, can just be can suddenly rise to a level of superhero in this world, which people like the everyman.
as much as we like to watch the Avengers, in this case, the that would be a completely bizarre twist on the story and would make it shitty, honestly.
Yeah. But it's a couple of interesting observations. I actually really liked the next article, it was interesting to read just the commentary from the next article. Robert Kirkman, I didn't, you know what? I always forget how young he is. And I think he just turned like 36 or something.
Hmm.
But he actually talked a little bit about his one regret about the television series, which is interesting because you and I talked a little bit about this, and how it differs so much from Walking Dead, the graphic novels, and it has to do with that CDC episode that a lot of people had problems with. And basically, I think he felt, as we said, like he had kind of just basically um, revealed too much with that episode. Um, So it was just a I was not surprised, but it was sort of gratifying to see that comment. And he just felt like it gave away a little bit too much information too early on in the season. But you and I had talked a little bit about why that happened, which was, they were dealing with a lot of strife within the production. I think that they weren't sure sort of where it was going in terms of like, whether the it would be renewed or not. So maybe they decided to do that storyline before they knew it would be renewed. I don't know. But what did you think about that?
I don't entirely understand the logic behind this because even though Jenner tells Grimes that everybody's infected, I don't think the audience finds out what he told in that same episode. But but I don't remember exactly, and I'm pretty sure that getting rid of the CDC episode I think would be a good thing for season one. Of course, it's
Right.
stupid to be revisionist at this point. We've got a perfectly awesome show, a fact that is drawn into starker relief every time we watch a bad zombie movie. I'm like, you know what's good? Walking Dead, and there's
Mm-hmm.
so much more of it, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
really nice too. Um, I don't know, like yeah, having this the CDC chapter was kind of dumb for season one, but in a short season, it did put some serious punctuation on the end of that season, so it worked.
Yeah, but it's just interesting hearing him even say it. So
Absolutely, yeah, it's weird. I mean, usually this is I feel like a little more for him to be this revealing in an interview is not like him. He's usually
agreed.
the master of not talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, and then our next little silly news article is just really odd, and I couldn't tell whether it was actually a joke or not. But then it was in several different places, but that still doesn't mean it could still not be serious. But basically, Budweiser has decided according to these articles, has decided to sort of retire the Clydesdale theme for their Super Bowl ads and is moving to a zombie theme. Um, I was personally hoping for some zombie Clydesdales, but basically they're saying that it's not the Clydesdales aren't appealing to a younger generation, specifically the millennials, so they're moving to something that does appeal to them, which is zombies. But didn't it read a little bit like a fake news article to you?
It
Uh,
read a little bit like they were telling Budweiser that they're dumb and their beer's terrible.
yeah, agreed. So anyway, that was in that piece of
I
news.
feel like that's
The
actually really high up in that article too. It's like, yeah, Budweiser's not very good because there's so much better beer out there. The thing is, I don't get about this is Budweiser, as far as I can tell, owns like the pro sports audience. I mean, maybe this is a tiny slice of the pie compared with what they used to have like 20, 30 years ago. But that's all you get. I feel like that's a huge part of what you can get your hands on at stadiums, and that's a huge market. But yeah, I suppose make your beer cheaper and sell it to people who don't have the money, disposable income, and use zombies in order to catch those people. It's in
have
my
you ever had Budvar?
never heard of it.
Well, Budvar is the beer that was sort of the template for Budweiser. And it actually is not that bad. And there was this whole sort of you were in a moratorium, like they weren't allowed to serve it in a lot of U.S. Because Budweiser wouldn't allow it. It wasn't allowed to be served. Um, and then I guess Budweiser like took over it or something. And it was it was just an interesting thing because Budvar was like a Czech beer.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually is not that bad. And when you have it, I've had it like a couple of times. You can see where Budweiser got the idea, or like you can definitely you're like, oh, this is what Budweiser would taste like if it was actually decent, you know. But it's just a very interesting thing. And then I don't know what ended up happening. I think they were able to take it over, but basically, I think Budweiser bought them out, so now you can't get it anymore or something like that. But I like how they blame all the craft brewers for their downfall. It's like, no, it's just because your beer is not very good. So
Yeah, and you've got to adapt.
yeah.
And instead of just being like, okay, so our shit beer isn't selling very well anymore, let's target it to a different market. No, why don't you just redesign, make your beer better?
Well, that's the thing. Like when I tried the Budvar, I was like, oh, this could be pretty good. And I can't imagine it's all that much. I don't think it could be much more expensive to make that version
I think
of
on
it.
the scale that they want to be able to make it is probably
Maybe,
probably does add up.
maybe.
Um,
But enough of that. Enough of that.
yeah, so
The
we got
next,
this trailer from the Dead Island video game, which
you know,
was remade by human beings and
yes,
shot for shot. And it's actually much sadder, I think, than the
yeah.
CGI version. This one actually is really. I mean, it was a. I mean, obviously, it's an awesome trailer for the original game already. But when you put human actors in there, and you're dealing with a kid zombie, of course, and the timeline of what's happening, it's pretty hard to watch.
It is hard to watch. I was actually very impressed with how they were able to do this and their casting. And they did this. This actually came out like earlier November, but I meant to put it in last week and I totally forgot. But it's pretty impressive how they do it, and I would agree with you. It's even as heartbreaking as like the first and effective that first trailer was. And they have them side by side. The Verge put both of these up in an article, but I just thought it was even, I didn't know that it could get worse.
Hmm.
You're right. You're totally correct. It was much worse. Um, so yeah, if you're into heartbreak, go ahead and check it out.
Enjoy that. Enjoy that heartbreak.
Yeah.
So artofmanliness has an article that we're putting up to well, it's a comic strip of various crazy baseball bat modifications that will be that they think could be good for fighting zombies.
I
The
think clearly they have not read any of Max Brooks' literature on this subject matter
I
because I
think
could see a lot of problems with their design.
there is a disclaimer on there that says, I know that these are ridiculous, so I kind of appreciate that they put that out there because, yeah, the first thing I was thinking was like, oh, almost all of these modifications are just weakening your baseball bat, or.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but one interesting thing is in this, if you click away from Art of Manliness to willowsoutdoorhaven.com, I think that's what it's called.
Yep.
Willow Outdoor Haven. There's a photo essay of the actual all of these modifications in like real life. Somebody has actually made them.
Yes, which I find actually a little bit scary, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Some of these things, like the glass, broken glass on the baseball bat, and the flail one with the
Mm-hmm.
little metal
The
things,
mace thing, yeah.
like it would just flay the skin off of a zombie. It wouldn't actually.
Do anything.
Yeah, you'd end up with this like zombie skin flying around in the air, which I can't imagine is good for anything. But yeah, it's still cool that somebody imagined these and then just put it together.
Yeah, and there I actually saw that there were a few other articles on that other website just about survival, and there's like a few different things, some of which again are a little bit terrifying, more so than the usual zombie survival articles. But yeah, it looks like they have a few things going on there on that website. So check
Uh,
it out.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. I have a quick aside tangent question though for you, H.A.
Sure.
Star Wars trailer.
Ah, yeah. So there were parts of it that I was like, but overall I am super excited.
Okay.
The weird thing with the black stormtrooper in the beginning, I was kind of like that was sort of I don't really know what that was about.
I don't know what any of it was about, but it's all just like
But these are like, I mean, we're a year ahead. This is
hmm
like, you know, and the stormtrooper, I'd have no problem with the fact that he's black or anything. I just didn't know why that piece was there. It was just a little strange to me. And again, because this is early days, um, they're just kind of throwing together whatever. However, the Millennium Falcon shots, the whole shot with the X-wing fighters and like kind of like
hmm
going just above the water, all that stuff. I mean, at least with the visuals, I'm like, oh, J.J. Abrams, he really, really loves Star Wars.
At the
Um,
Sith in the
ugh,
forest.
now the Sith in the Forest, that I don't
Nope,
know.
don't rain on my parade. That was badass. Everything
No,
about that guy's posture is awesome.
no, he looks fine, but the perpendicular little like
Just
outcrops,
go with it.
you're not
Let go of
even.
your hatred and your emotion, young Padawan,
Oh,
and just learn to love
Mr.
Star Wars.
Tiffin, I know you and your weapon ideas. There's no way you think that that's a good idea. Those things are going to burn your fingers off. That's insane.
Not necessarily. It,
However, I do
I've
love
heard
all
other
the
people
crazy.
saying that they would like, oh, you'd be hurt by your own lightsaber. I'm like, look, obviously this guy's just that good that he's not going to burn his fingers off, or maybe he will, and everybody will be vindicated as after the film comes out.
I'm kind of hoping it's not he and that it's actually Carrie Russell as the Sith.
Carrie
Um,
Russell. Hey.
yeah, yeah, because she just pops up in all of J.J. Abrams' films. He's loved her since Felicity. You can't blame him. She's awesome and pretty badass
And
in
yeah, she's got the
The
chops.
Americans.
She's got the
Yeah,
chops from the Americans. But I'm pretty
absolutely.
sure that it's Adam Driver, I think, is who that is.
But in any case, I mean, I understand they have to innovate and whatever, and they have to do something cool. So I'm not gonna. But however, I did love like within like just so quickly after the trailer came out, all these fans came up with the most ridiculous lightsaber designs. Did you see that?
I've seen that there's been a lot of backlash.
Backlash. I just think people have fun with it. I'm not gonna give them backlash. I'm excited to see this. It looks to me, it looks great. So how about you?
Yeah, I don't even have to. Yeah, I still enjoy episode one as I did when I first saw it. So my opinion, therefore, might be pointless to express
You liked
because,
episode one?
yeah, I like all Star Wars.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But I'm excited to see it. I am super excited to see more about it. And I think one of the things that J.J. Abrams does really well is he does really well at collaboration. And I think that to me, that's some of the weaknesses in what happened with the episodes 1, 2, and 3 is that I think George Lucas just kind of nobody was willing to tell him no. And that's different from episodes 4, 5, and 6. So, um, and I think J.J. Abrams does understand the collaboration and understands, I think he's crazy about a lot of stuff, but he takes really good ideas and he brings them into the fold and he works with really amazing people. So I'm excited. I got like the little chill up my spine watching the trailer and, hearing the music. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
was good.
yeah.
It was good. So I'm psyched.
All right. Well, on to the Zombie Diaries.
Yeah, Under the Zombie Diaries, which, all
Hmm.
right. So Zombie Diaries, it was film was made in 2006. Now the interesting thing about this, and I feel like I was a little bit snookered, admittedly, is that I saw some very excellent reviews of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw equally horrible reviews of it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the excellent reviews I saw were on websites and reviewing places that I trusted. And sort of the upshot of this that I saw was that they were like, oh, it's sort of like they took the idea, like the point of view, the shaky cam from, Blair Witch, and they kind of made this very low budget and did what they could with it, and it was great. And then there were a slew of opposite reviews. Now, admittedly, I waited to read sort of more of these until after I watched this, because then I was like, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was a very low budget. This came out of the UK. It was directed by Michael Bartlett and Kevin Gates, and they were also the writers of this. They made it for a very small amount of money. I think it was like just a little over £8,000. Um, so what is that like? I don't know,
Oh,
almost 10
it's like
grand maybe.
13,000 or something.
Okay. But and so it, I was like, okay, like this could be a decent low budget zombie flick. And admittedly in my head I was thinking about the battery. And that one actually I enjoyed quite a bit and I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I was not prepared for what this was, so yeah, my bad on this one, young Mr. Tiffin.
Oh, hey, come on. We can't hold grudges, right? Otherwise,
No. Otherwise,
I
yeah,
would have
yeah,
been
no,
kicked
no.
off the podcast a long time ago.
No grudges. I just, what it was? It was like after watching Gallowalkers, I was really hoping that we would have a better, a
You
better
and me both,
experience this
sister.
week.
You and me both.
Um, but in any case, it's three different segments of this story that you're seeing about. They tell you straight up it's a bird flu outbreak in the UK, and you're following sort of this it's hard to like a documentary. I guess they're making a documentary about it.
Well, no, it's a group of journalists from the
Yeah,
maybe not from the BBC, but a group of journalists, three like a producer, a cameraman, and an anchor, and then an extra guy. And the
yeah,
extra guy is filming them like to sell it after they're done, like kind of
right.
as a side project.
Right. And I mean, and that's fine. And and it starts out okay, I
Honestly, I
guess.
thought this could be good right until they get up to the
Initially,
farmhouse. Once they get out to
agreed.
the farm, I'm like, oh, okay, this is not good. But it starts out really strong, I felt
Yeah,
like.
yeah, it did. And I mean that again, as I said, I feel like I got a little snookered here. And and then there's a segment about them, then there's a segment about these other people that are surviving, and then a third segment that sort of goes back to explain what happened and how we all got here. It looks like just sort of the timing of the film. We're sort of seeing events, and then we get to like a third segment, and it sort of says 1 month earlier. So we're seeing sort of the
It's
beginning, then we see a little bit like further into it and
yeah.
sort of at the ending, and then it skips back.
Right. It
So
yeah, has a weird parabolic storyline. It does.
right,
It goes 30 days forward and then 30 days back again.
right. But it's a lot of. I mean, this is the thing: is that the acting I feel is pretty rough. And I saw like that a lot of these scenes were improvised, and that's clear. And I mean, you could see that a little bit in the Battery as well, but the Battery I feel executed it a lot better. Um, there was so much shaky cam work. And did you see Blair Witch in the theaters by any
I
chance?
did. It scared the crap out of me when it
It
first came out.
scared the hell out of me. I didn't, it was done so well. And I guess when I'm seeing all these comments comparing it to Blair Witch, the only comparison you can make is that it was somebody holding a handheld. I don't think that if there was writing involved, it wasn't great writing. It sort of felt to me like they gave them sort of an outline of what they were supposed to do, and it felt very much like an improv project. It was a little bit unclear as to what was happening, and they go through the whole, you know, this is what happens when there's an outbreak and humans are bad. And all I kept thinking about during especially some of the scenes where you see some of the very bad behavior by the humans is your comment, which is like, can't you ever like meet people that are just going to help each other out? Um, and that certainly wasn't happening here. I felt like the effects were cheesy, and there were certain points in this storyline where you really question what they're doing. I mean, you have this group of survivors. Why would they be out hunting zombies at night when they have like absolutely no visual? Like, wouldn't it make much more sense to like lock yourselves up in your compound, and do only that stuff during the day? I don't know. Like there's a lot of holes in this plot line, a lot of lack of common sense. And then there was another particular scene where I was just like, why did you do that? And there's like a little bit of a car crash, and they leave them in the car, and they leave both doors open. Like, maybe she's unconscious, but why would you just leave her as fodder for the Walking Dead? It just seems a little strange to me. But yeah, and
Especially when
then
we find out that that chick is the other guy's wife.
right.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
This
So
this
it's
movie had a few fatal flaws, and I would say the biggest one was sound quality. Because
oh, I was about
I
to say that.
couldn't hear a lot of dialogue or ambient sound when
Mm-hmm.
someone's like, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Absolutely no, I didn't hear anything. All I can hear is
Crackling
like
noises.
one of the only sound effects that they employed was like when zombies have a lot of flies buzzing around them, which I guess is that's pretty cool. It's innovative, but towards the end of the film, when one guy is like crawling away from the camera,
All you hear is the
you
flies
hear
coming.
flies everywhere. And that was pretty badass.
Yep.
Um, the other the video quality was really bad at night when they started running around through the first town after dark, and all you can see is like the flashlight on the camera bouncing off stuff, and you hear these women screaming, and then you can see a couple of zombies. Their zombies were also the least scary
Mm-hmm.
because they were so slow, and yet somehow they still managed to
Catch
catch up
them.
to and eat humans, which seemed fairly unlikely.
Yeah. And then the sound quality, I ended up actually, I watched this with headphones on because I was having such a hard time hearing it just from, I was watching on my laptop because Bill refused to watch this with me, understandably. Since, I burned him with Gallowalkers last week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, you're totally right about that zombie watching credit. I burned that one terribly. I misjudged. I misjudged. But in any case, the sound quality the levels were terrible, and I don't know. I just it was very interesting though to then go and read some of the reviews. Did you read any of them?
No, no, it did not.
One of it was like especially if you read them on Amazon, it's very misleading. There are a bunch of like 4 and 5 star reviews, and to me, it's clear that they're fake. After you're reading some of the other more honest reviews, somebody's like title was like, "Since when was zombie spelled SHIT?"
Hmm.
And just, and somebody said, "Who's responsible for this?" And there's all this stuff, and then somebody comments, a lot of the good reviews sound very much like the same review. So to me, it's clear that they were sort of like padding the Amazon reviews. I
Hmm.
don't know that these were real. And some of the names were a little bit, they just seem totally fake to me. Um, and even some of the reviews in different sites, it's I don't and I was also trying to like give it a like in my head I was trying to give it a little bit of credit and be like, "Oh, but this is 2006 and now like you have like much better your ability to make a low budget film is much better now." And it's true, like, and it's much more affordable for independent filmmakers to make better looking and sounding films. So 2006 and whatever. And then I was like, yeah, but no, because Blair Witch did something very similar and
Like
did it so much.
99. Yeah.
Right, right. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to stop making excuses for them.
I
But
never really understood from the storyline why anybody was recording, other than
right.
maybe an unspoken Blair Witch style. I can handle what's going on through the viewfinder better than I can,
Right.
in real life. But they never even had that discussion.
No, it's just kind of like you just have to say, why are they filming? It's just a little bit there. That's a huge plot hole. So anyway, I mean, I don't know how much more I want to talk about it, but I would say generally, I mean, there's a couple interesting spots in it, but I probably wouldn't recommend this to anybody personally.
One of the problems that I had with this as it ended was it felt kind of xenophobic, in addition to just not being a great film. All of a sudden, like the psychopaths in the herd are they're not like recent immigrants to the UK, but their parents were maybe immigrants to the UK, whereas the rest of the cast is very homogenous and it's just a bunch of white
Hmm.
people. Suddenly you've got Goke and Manny, who I assume maybe were supposed to be Turkish, or not really sure where they're supposed to be from, and they are
The bad
they're
people.
like mass murderers in a zombie apocalypse who
Hmm.
apparently just think this is the best thing that could have possibly happened to them. And they leave their storyline completely wide open, and I assume that that's probably what the Zombie Diaries 2 deals with, because there was a sequel that was picked up, and the Weinstein Company got involved. So it wasn't just a couple of fake Amazon reviews that thought that this movie was good enough to work with. Like a fairly sizable Hollywood production company got involved to help them make a sequel, which is pretty unbelievable.
Well, even, the Zombie Research Society, how they have all their, which again, I take it with a grain of salt, they have all their zombie Netflix
Hmm.
films or whatever. And so he does like he'll have different ratings. And this one he rated actually pretty highly and did a real review of it. And I felt like I was a little bit surprised. As I said, like I don't necessarily always trust his reviews, but there were some other ones that were up there, and I was sort of like, wow, really? Like, I'm so shocked that somebody would actually recommend this. But, and you're correct. Like, the xenophobic thing was like, that was just super weird.
It feels a little, yeah, it feels a little overdone, or I'm not sure. It made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too.
At least they could have made his other partner in crime, yet another white guy or something, or I don't know.
Or some of the other survivors could have been could have been not white and
Well, I guess they
British.
had Amin, who like barely has like 2 lines and about 30 seconds of screen time.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that was an issue. I didn't like the way it was cut up into different people's experiences, and then kind of, yeah, a little bit all sewn back together by the end.
Hmm.
But I found that to be too disjoining. And the fact that you leave our first band of survivors in the woods and go 30 days into the future right away, and
Yeah,
then
that
you,
was
you come back
strange.
to them at the end. To me, this is not awesome storytelling. It does
Mm-mm.
so that yeah, there were a lot of problems both with technical filmmaking and story. I thought the acting was actually fine. There were a few
Mm.
times when it felt a little forced, but
Well, okay, and then just the whole weird 9/11 speech I thought was very weird.
yeah,
Did you find that to be, I was like, that just seems like, why was that
that
even
was
in there?
shoehorned in. Yeah, it didn't make sense but maybe they were just like, okay, guy, this is the only time you're going to be on camera, so
Eh.
make a speech that people will remember. Because
Uh,
he's like, other than when he's crawling away from the camera, that's the only time
that's
that
it.
guy's actually there. Uh, yeah, and then there was at least one scene in the middle section, the guy in the suit with the long hair who's got the camera with the
Yeah.
American and his wife.
Hmm.
Um, they have a shot of him walking up to a building and his reflection is in the window, and
Hmm.
he's using the camera like he's holding it lower than his shoulders. It's like in his mid torso, and he's using the viewfinder by like looking down into it.
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking, so he's walking slowly, looking down.
That seems like a smart idea.
Yeah, and yeah, it made no sense. Like, why? No, this is dumb. Well, nobody should do this, and it's not worth the movie. Uh, and yet they needed somebody to be doing this silly behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
So okay, I guess it's not worth going into too much. But yeah, so Zombie Diaries had a lot of potential, and really didn't do
didn't
much with
pan
it.
out. No. Um,
However, the next year George Romero released Diary of the Dead,
hmm
and while the production value and the acting, I guess, is
Much higher.
much higher, it still really is a difficult film to watch. I think mostly because of, and you might hate me for saying this, but George Romero's writing.
It feels very George Romero. I would agree with you. It's sort of like, it feels kind of like he just got stuck with Night of the Living Dead and has never really changed his formula or his writing style or the stuff that he's trying to say. It always feels pretty much like the same message. And
Yeah,
I don't hate you for saying it. I mean, I think that that's, in some ways, I think that's why people love it, is because it is so cheesy and kind of crazy, but it is really, you don't need to be hit over the head with some of his ideas. And this would have been a much better film if the writing had been tighter. Because as you said, the production value, I mean, they had a $2 million budget for this. They had some, did you notice that the actress from Orphan Black, which unfortunately is not in it very long.
that's
Um,
Mary.
yeah,
I
that's
thought I
yeah,
recognized
yeah,
her.
yeah. That's and I always kind of screw up her how to say her name, but Tatiana Maslany. Um, she is appears in this, and I got very excited when I saw her, and then I was like, ah, because she's not in the film extraordinarily long, unfortunately.
I don't know that you ever get a shot of her that isn't profile either.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Or just sitting kind of injured in a wheelchair. But the actors, I mean, they seem pretty good.
Hmm.
And in this, at least, they do give you that. Pretty much, they give you the same, a little bit of a twist on it, but the same Blair Witch thing is that clearly the person who is filming this is he's filming this because he can't really handle it any other way. I mean,
That's
he's
not how he puts it.
that's
It's
not how he puts it, but it's clear that that's
they all
why.
honestly, whereas the other film they don't talk really at all about why they're filming. In this film, they
Hmm.
talk way too fucking much about it,
Why
and
they're
it's
filming. Yeah.
constantly like people looking at the camera or at the audience and saying, "You're such an idiot. Why don't you stop
Hmm.
filming? God, what's wrong with you?" Not in that
And they
necessarily in a
say it,
tone, but
they say it like all throughout the film. And this is the person filming it all is this student director named Jason Creed. Um, and he is just I don't know. It's they hit, as I said, they hit you over the head with their points. And I mean, clearly he has this thing about mass media and how things are presented in the media. And like, there's the whole opening scene with, like what the plot of this is that the zombie outbreak has happened. And so people are uploading their own little pieces of this onto the internet, or onto YouTube type channels so that people can see what's really happening, because most communications are down and it's just showing like the downfall of civilization. Again, same theme that Romero has continually had. But again, this feels more forced than I think even like just than any of his earlier films. Did you feel that way too?
Yeah, I feel like if he wanted to do a story about an independent news organization in the zombie apocalypse, which has some potential for being very interesting, he could have dropped a lot of the
Posturing.
and the like Winnebago style.
Mm.
This is how we get around. I feel like yeah, it's all about mass media, which Dawn of the Dead had a huge element to it that was them watching TV, the original. I mean, and the kind of the media breaking down. In this one, media and the is like re-editing footage that we've already seen as an audience and that Jason's already seen to
Mm-hmm.
like skip blame or redirect blame. And Jason's super up in arms about this, and I'm kind of like, well, who fucking cares whose fault it is? Let's talk about fixing it. Let's talk about security and safety,
Right.
which that's not even addressed. But like, oh, truth isn't being represented correctly. Like, fuck, let's get on that.
Right. Right.
And yeah, so also halfway through the film, you have things like TV stations are all going off the air,
Mm-hmm.
but the internet is still working apparently.
Yeah, yeah, apparently. And and you also have your cast of like kind of weird zombies that appear on this, like a state trooper zombie, and the clown zombie and all this other stuff. Um, but again, you have them, and did you notice that Mr. Nicotero has a little bit of a role in this?
Was he the first Doctor Zombie, perhaps?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was the doctor zombie. And it's your standard Romero fare. There's nothing that you're really surprised at seeing, only that it feels a little bit more. Oh, and Boyd Banks is in this too, by the
Yeah,
way.
Boyd Banks,
Um,
when he showed up, I was just like,
Yay! And then I'm
well, I
like,
was a little
oh,
bit yay, but I was also like, what is he doing with this group of people necessarily?
I know, it didn't make any sense.
I think he was also just kind of like, we need to get Boyd into this show, and let's make him a black market arms dealer on day
Yeah,
one of the zombie outbreak.
yeah, of course, of course. But I was still happy to see him. So there were some bright spots in it there for me,
Hmm.
with those two showing up. But I just like even the storyline felt so forced to me, more so than usual, and it did feel. I mean, it felt like the production. There were some really cool things they could do with this, and they just chose not to. And it just felt sort of like okay. And I actually took a break and came back to watching it because I was so bored watching it.
Both of these
Um,
movies I couldn't watch in one sitting.
yeah, yeah, same thing with me. So that tells me a lot. Like it takes a lot for me to be like, you know what, I need to just take a break from this and then come back to it. Like for any film, I'm typically somebody is that can I'm a trooper. I can get through it, and neither of these allowed me to do that. So,
I would like
um
to recite to you one line of, I guess, two lines of dialogue from the film, which made me laugh out loud and say, I've got to write that down. Jason Creed says, "It used to be us against us, but now it's us against them." And then Deborah, who's his girlfriend, who is the narrator and most annoying, looking at the camera, telling you to
yes,
stop recording person.
all the
Then
time.
she says in her voiceover, "He was right, except they were us." So
I know.
let me just read that back for emphasis.
Ah.
It used to be us against us, but now it's us against them. He was right, except they were us.
And yet he managed to get a ton of people that you would not, for a lot of the voiceovers. Did you catch who the other people he got to do some of like the news readers and stuff?
Well, he was doing one. He was like the police chief, right? Or was that Stan Lee? I couldn't. Actually, they look really alike to me.
Well, the voiceovers. I mean, he had Wes Craven, he had Guillermo del Toro, Stephen King, Simon Pegg himself, of course, Quentin Tarantino, and Tom Savini. Like, none of them were like actually credited within the film, but you see this in the sort of like trivia
Huh.
about the film. But it's like, you know, uh, it's just one of those things that you're kind of like, okay, um, it's a little. I mean, it would like I wish that the film was actually worth having all these people in it. Do you know what I mean? I wanted it to just be much better.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you've got Samuel the Amish, the deaf Amish guy. So
he was
there's
he was kind of fun. He was kind of fun. He just, kept
he was
bringing out a
obviously there for comic relief, and he also only lasted 5 minutes.
true, true. Um, but yeah, and again, like with both of these, I just felt like there was a lot of potential, and neither of them really reached it. Like the Winnebago thing, and I think one of the most annoying characters in this whole thing was the older professorial, the film professor
Hmm.
that they're hanging out with in his little like monologues. One of the worst monologues that made me laugh out loud, or that I was just like, really, was where he was like talking about um, he was talking about how the cold light of day is hard on old men.
Oh yeah, his whole thing about dawn and mornings.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Well,
just
he was
like,
pretending to shave because he was obviously was completely clean shaven.
right, right. I was just like, really? Are you gonna like do like a little bit of a like predator thing and put some mud on your face, and like, what are you doing?
He did have. I mean, he was kind of a cool character in a way because you expected him to die really early, right? Because he's the
And he
drunk,
didn't, and he
and he
didn't.
doesn't die right away. But then he keeps saying dumb shit like how alcohol has never impaired his ability to act or something. He has some weird stuff about how his alcoholism is only makes his mind sharper.
Yeah,
It's pretty weird.
yeah. Um, yeah. And this is the professor that was, he was, his name in the film was Andrew Maxwell, and he was played by Scott Wentworth. I thought I had seen him in other things, but then when I looked up his bio, I didn't really see. I mean, he was in the Ice Storm, which I guess is the only thing I really had seen him in. So
Oh, the ice storm. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, he's in a lot of stuff, but I just don't. That's the only thing that I really remember him from. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as unwatchable as the Zombie Diaries, but I still kind of felt like I was wasting my time watching it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not up to par with not even with Land of the Dead, which wasn't a great movie.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
it's the fifth in the series. This we've actually watched them in order, which I'm happy that we managed to do that. And there's one
Hmm.
more, Survival of the Dead, which follows. Have you read anything about the synopsis of that or seen that film?
I have not seen the film and I have not read the synopsis, but I
Well, the
probably
very
should.
brief synopsis is that it follows the story of those National Guardsmen who who take all their stuff.
Ah, well, interesting.
It is quite
Okay.
interesting. So this was the fifth of his films of Romero's zombie movies, and I would definitely say we've got a sliding scale of quality that is not sliding in a good direction.
No, no, it's all sliding downhill, sadly. Um, Despite the fact that a lot of the budget has gone up. And the production. So I don't know. I think I think if you're a fan of the Romero, like this particular storyline, which is pretty much his only storyline.
Hmm.
I think, if you want to watch it to sort of complete that, I think that that's fine. If you're somebody that's sort of, I kind of like zombie movies, I wouldn't recommend this. It's certainly in terms of keeping my attention and things like that. Like it's definitely not at the top of my list. And I agree with you. The sliding scale is not sliding in the direction we would hope to see.
No. Yeah, they filmed this pretty quickly. I think it was in 2 weeks, and
Hmm.
it was a big difference for him production wise because usually Romero films from multiple camera angles, the same scene, and
Mm-hmm.
then goes and
And
figures
cuts
out
everything
which cut
together.
he's going to use in the editing room floor, right? And then or in the editing room rather. But in this one, they actually just used, the whatever cameras they had on in the story, like the flip cam for the Texan and whatever the other two cameras, which they like name drop what cameras they're using, which I thought was kind of
Mm-hmm.
funny.
That
That's
was
like that
funny.
is actually like a film school element, right? The
Right.
whoever is narrating is like, oh, and by the way, this was a Sony, blah blah blah. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care, but okay. Um, and like so they just had the cameras on all the time. He talked about how the cast all had a lot of stage experience, and so he mentions in one interview that I saw, like, I think it was on Wikipedia, that thought that the cast probably could have just done the whole movie in one long take. So that's kind of high praise for the cast, and honestly, the cast was pretty good. It's just they were
The
having to
writing was
say
bad.
garbage lines, and the plot was kind of stilted, and the
Weak.
recreation of the mummy chasing the person through the forest scene at the end was
Ridiculous.
laughable. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Kind of funny, but ridiculous. And
And there's nothing more pathetic than Jason filming his friend getting chased by a zombie and doing absolutely nothing to help.
right. And not even having any excuse. Like it's just ridiculous. It's terrible. Yeah. And I mean there were some I mean a couple of the scenes that I did think were kind of some of the scenes where they were doing sort of the shots from inside the house security system, some of that was kind of interesting, though they didn't really use it very well. The zombies in the swimming pool, that was kind of creepy. Um, but it just all overall, I cannot give this my seal of approval.
No.
So, um, so, and this actually made, well, I guess they kind of made back their money. So they
They made
made,
less than $1 million in the US. That is not
yeah,
good.
not good at all. Not good at all. But but yeah, I'm hoping that the film we discuss next week is better. So,
I like how we're kind of pulling out a nuclear option, uh,
yep,
but we're going animated for our next review with Paranorman.
right.
So
Which we
look
haven't
forward to that.
really done a ton of animated stuff. I mean, we did that one short with the little cartoon that was kind of cute. But we haven't really done an animated film, so
And I
this could
think
be kind of cool.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, I don't. I've never seen this, but I assume that it's not going to be for scares. Like I don't think that that's going to be the goal of this because it is for kids, right?
Yeah, yeah. Supposedly this is a kid-friendly show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this and talking about it with you.
Yeah, awesome. So sorry, audience, for reviewing 2 weeks in a row fairly substandard films, but we honestly, I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. We've gone through a lot of the greats,
Yeah, we
so
have. We have.
now what we're
Although
looking for are diamonds in the rough.
if you were watching, this is the thing. I was thinking as I was watching this and, kind of laughing out loud at some of the terrible lines. If you were watching this to watch truly bad films and, maybe do a drinking game with every time somebody shoots a zombie and says, "Oh, fuck," or whatever, maybe this could be a lot more fun. I feel like it would be more fun in a group mocking setting than it would be watching this on your own.
There is some potential for enjoyment there, yes.
Yeah, like much more of a mystery science theater type setting, where you're just making fun of the film. But barring that, and I wouldn't recommend, going out of your way to see this. So, and it actually bothered me that I had to pay $2 to rent it on Amazon. So, so that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Well, I think we'll bid you guys adieu on that happy note. And we will be back next time with a review of Paranorman and more zombie news. So make sure you chime in on the conversation on Twitter at ReanimatedPcast, or send us an email at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, or you can always find us on our website at reanimatedpodcast.com. But in the meantime, I'm Stuart Tiffin, and I'm saying thanks for listening, and bye bye.
And I'm H.A. Conrad saying thanks for continuing to listen, hopefully, after these two reviews. We'll do better next time, folks. I actually, if you do have any films or anything you'd like to see us review, I would love to hear your suggestions as well, because a lot of our best suggestions come from our listeners. So,
And we already have had one suggestion to get on with our Walking Dead review,
right,
and we should probably
which
get on that
we should
with
probably do
season
that
three.
because at least we know that that's good. So,
And
anyway,
we're coming up after. I mean, we're recording this on Sunday. This is the day of the mid-season finale. We're about to go Walking Deadless for
a
several
while.
weeks, and I'm not
Yeah,
looking forward to that. But we'll
me
definitely
neither.
episode or season three review is underway.
Yes. So until next time, ciao.
Alrighty, bye.